For many Detroit Lions fans, the top priority this offseason would either be an edge rusher or a cornerback, while the Lions could potentially make an extremely bold move to acquire one of those needs. We're going to talk about it in today's episode, folks, so stay tuned.
We used to be a team no one respected. We used to be a team no one feared. That was then. This is now.
First victory of the year on the line. Goff's got it. Back, looks, throws, end zone. Yes! Caught!
You know who we are.
10, 5, end zone. Touchdown, Detroit Lions.
And you know where to find us. We won't be far. We'll be on your front porch waiting for you. We are the New Era Lions. And
we are driven by Detroit.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to yet another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. I'm your host, David T. Pike, and as always, we're diving in. But before we go on further, I just want to again say thank you all to all my loyal fans and subscribers. You guys are absolutely amazing. I'm thankful for each and every one of y'all. And to those that are tuning in for the very first time, again, thank you all for giving my show a shot. I hope y'all enjoy the content. Hope to gain your subscription if I've earned and deserved it. And to everybody, I just hope y'all are having a great day. God bless. And let's dive into the show here. So here's the thing, folks. I'm not really going off of any script today. I'm not going off of that. I'm going to talk to you guys as if I was talking to y'all in a room. Because to me, this is probably going to be one of the biggest conversation topics. It's going to be one of the biggest conversation pieces for the entirety of the offseason until we actually find out what the hell Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell decide to do about the whole conundrum with the cornerback situation and the edge rusher situation. Now, I'm going to be entirely honest. If I had to choose one that has a much higher pressing need, a much higher pressing qualification that has to get settled right away, it has to be the cornerback situation. Because it's like, listen, we already have a great edge rusher in Aiden Hutchinson. We just need to pair him with somebody else to get equal pressure on both sides of the defensive front. So at least half of the situation is solved in that regard. Now, as far as the cornerback situation is concerned, I don't think we have anybody that is a true number one qualified cornerback. Cameron Sutton, he's a good number two, but he is simply not qualified to be a true number one cornerback. And that right there tells me that, okay, since we have Hutchinson at the edge, we need to find somebody at the cornerback position to pair opposite of Cameron Sutton, so that way the defensive secondary is in a much better position than arguably, I would say, since the days of when we had Darius Slay, who was our true last number one, cornerback that could shut down one side of the field. Now, here's the thing, folks. I have talked about potential rookie prospects that the Lions could be interested in. And everybody knows a lot of the guys that, I've talked about. I've made a couple of videos on them, such guys like Kool-Aid McKinstry, TJ Tampa, Kyrie Jackson, Terrion Arnold. These are all guys that people have talked about. Enos Rakestraw is another one. The point of the matter is that there are definitely options at the cornerback position when it comes to this rookie draft class that is coming up. But I also know this, that for some Lions fans, they're not too particularly hot about the idea of giving the cornerback job to a rookie. And the reason why is because of what happened with Jeff Okudah back when Bob Quinn was the GM. Now, I'm just going to simply state this. I would trust Brad Holmes' ability to draft a cornerback exponentially higher than freaking Bob Quinn. So if Brad Holmes decides to draft a cornerback in the first round, I'm not gonna bat an eyelash as much as I would have had it been Bob Quinn doing it. So I'm just simply saying here, I understand where some people are having some distrust of that whole idea, or rather a distaste about the idea, but it's like, listen, Brad Holmes ain't steered us wrong yet. I'm not gonna start doubting him now. But I also know this. If there's one thing about Lions fans that you can bank on 100% every single day of the week, they are always on the lookout for a big name target. They're always on the lookout for a big name ticket to add to the team. And when it comes to cornerback this year, there are definitely a couple of names that are already popping up that a lot of Lions fans would love to see Brad Holmes potentially take a big ass swing at. And the biggest one I would think of right now off the top of my head is cornerback for the Kansas City Chiefs, L'Jarius Sneed. Now, understand something here. I actually like L'Jarius Sneed quite a bit. I like the fact that I like his size. I like the fact that, he's done very, very well for the Kansas City Chiefs. However, though, let's understand something here. Getting L'Jarius Sneed is not going to be cheap, folks. Let's understand that right off the bat. First and foremost, the Chiefs have already stated that if they can't get a long-term contract negotiated, what they are going to do, and what they've already done, is they have tagged him, and now they're going to start exploring tag and trade options. Now, let's understand the situation for what it is. Brad Holmes, in theory, could trade for L'Jarius Sneed. And I know a lot of Lions fans would absolutely love the potential to have a guy like L'Jarius Sneed in our defensive backfield. But we have to understand the cost here. By trading for a guy like L'Jarius Sneed, you are accruing what I would call double jeopardy, because not only, one, do you have to trade for the rights to have him, which most likely means you're trading draft capital, you're trading draft compensation, which, if we know anything about Brad Holmes, having that draft capital, having that draft compensation is extremely valuable. And again, you take a look at Brad Holmes' track record, the man has hit on quite a lot of his draft picks, so it's like, listen, I know what L'Jarius Sneed is, but it's like I also know that freaking Brad Holmes could find somebody of equal or better value to L'Jarius Sneed at maybe another position, or hell, even the same position. So it's like that's something I got to keep in consideration here when I'm having this conversation. But the other thing I have to keep in consideration is the salary implication. Think about this. The freaking salary cap for freaking a cornerback right now is $19.8 million, folks. Yes, I understand the Lions have a crap ton of cap space right now, but you're talking about one player taking up $20 million of cap space almost, which means not only would you have to trade that draft pick, whatever it might be, to potentially get, L'Jarius Sneed, which I would imagine would have to be at least a second or a third round draft pick, and then on top of that, you would also have to pay out that $20 million if you weren't able to come to a new contract, which I would hope and pray that we would be able to do so to, spread out some of that cap implication, some of that cap damage of $19.8 million. Now, here's the reason why I like the idea of trading for L'Jarius Sneed, and here's the other reasons why I don't like trading for him. One, like I said, I like L'Jarius Sneed's size. I like the fact that he has done very, very well in the NFL, especially if I recall correctly, it was a former fourth-round pick. And for me, it's like, hey, you go out, you get a big target like L'Jarius Sneed, now you are adding further legitimacy to the Lions as a potential Super Bowl contender. Because it's like, listen, if you can get a guy like L'Jarius Sneed to come and play for the Detroit Lions, you've definitely upped your game as a player in the NFL. You have definitely upped your game, upped your name recognition as a potential Super Bowl contender. So that's part of the reason why I like it. But here's the reason why I don't like it. Part of the reason I don't like it is because, okay, I understand that L'Jarius Sneed has done very, very well at Kansas City. But let's also understand something here. Steve Spagnuolo has been the freaking defensive coordinator for the Kansas City Chiefs there for the last 3 or 4 years. And regardless of what people might want to say about his, head coaching capabilities, he has been considered one of the best defensive-minded coaches in the entirety of the NFL. So it's like, okay, I have to ask myself this question here. If by some chance we were to trade for L'Jarius Sneed, is it part and parcel because of the scheme that he's playing with Spagnuolo, or is it going to translate and, be able to work with Aaron Glenn as well? I don't know if that's going to happen, because if there's one thing I'm going to keep saying about Aaron Glenn is this. Aaron Glenn has had talent, but yet we haven't been able to get consistently anything out of it on a decent front, at least in the passing game. We got a lot out of the running compartment this year, but I'm kind of, I'm really worried about, hey, if we were to make a big, bold swing for L'Jarius Sneed, would he be able to translate the success he's had in Kansas City to here in Detroit? I don't know that answer. I would like to imagine it could happen, but again, you don't really know. But here's the second reason why I don't like this idea, but at the same time, I don't think it's going to happen. Again, Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell have said this more times than I care to recollect at this point, but they have said it multiple times. They like their guys, and they want to keep their guys. Here's the reason why I don't think a L'Jarius Sneed trade is most likely to happen. Again, other than the cost factor and other than the potential of whether or not it would work from a schematic point of view, you have to take a look at it from this perspective. Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes, they like to keep their guys, and they like to know what the guys they have that are coming in. Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell have said it. Listen, the guys that we already have in the building, we know exactly who they are. We know exactly what they're about. We know exactly what to expect from them. When you're bringing somebody outside of the building in, you have no information really. You're kind of figuring them out as you go along. Well, here's the thing. If you're going to put in a massive amount of, capital, a massive amount of resources into a player like L'Jarius Sneed, you better damn well be certain that this guy is going to, cut the mustard, so to speak. He's going to fit the bill. I don't know if that's going to be the case in a tag and trade kind of option here. If you're at least out on the free agency market, you can at least negotiate to a certain extent. When you're doing a tag and trade, you're not necessarily negotiating with the player necessarily as much. You're negotiating more so with the ball club that owns the rights to him. So again, I don't know if that's something that Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell are really going to go for, because it's like, listen, they want to know the player that they're potentially getting in, quote-unquote, the proverbial bed with, before they actually decide to say, hey, we're going to commit to that individual. And it's like, listen, that's why I think Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell, if they're going to go after a cornerback option, if they're going to go after somebody of that nature, they're more than likely going to go after somebody in the draft, because at that point, they have spent the time doing background checks, they have spent the time taking a look at the film, they have spent time getting to know the individual on a much deeper level than necessarily what they'd be able to do as far as a free agent pursuit. That's the only reason why I'm not too particularly keen on the whole L'Jarius Sneed idea. And that's the same for virtually almost any cornerback, whether it's Marshawn Lattimore or anybody else. It's just like, I understand why a lot of Lions fans want to see a cornerback get signed or traded for. I understand the allure, I understand the appeal. But I just don't think it matches up with what we've heard from Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell. It just doesn't jive very well with how they have built this team. They like to know the guys that they're bringing in. They want to know that they're good fits, they're good culture fits for what they have established here in Detroit. And it's very hard to do that with somebody you don't have any sort of rapport or have not built any sort of a relationship with or have done much of any background information on. That's a lot harder to do with veterans that are out on the free market versus finding somebody that's in the draft. And again, you have to also understand this as well. Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell, they have built this team by being fiscally smart, not being irresponsible with their money. Now, yes, again, I understand the Lions have a lot of money, but they also have a lot of financial responsibilities that they've got to figure out an answer to, whether it's Jared Goff, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Penei Sewell, Aiden Hutchinson coming up shortly. These are all guys they got to come up with answers to. Same thing with Jonah Jackson and potentially Graham Glasgow. So it's like, listen, I understand that people want the Lions to make a big, bold move, but I just don't think they're going to do that. I think that, again, the Lions are going to be a little bit more quiet in the free agency period. That's not to say they're not going to do anything, but I think they're going to be quiet. I think they're going to be responsible, and they're going to make, again, the biggest bang for their buck in the draft, which is exactly what Brad Holmes and the Lions have done the last 3 years, and I think they're going to do it again this year. But anyway, folks, I figured I'd talk about this because I've been seeing the L'Jarius Sneed stuff all over the place. And again, while I like him as a player, I just don't know if it would work here in Detroit. That's not to say anything bad about the player. I just don't know if it would work based upon what we know about Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell, and also based upon how this team has been built. But c'est la vie. You guys think about it. You guys let me know what you guys think. You always do. But with that being said, I just want to say thank you all for watching yet another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. If you enjoyed what you saw, by all means, highly encourage you all to watch the next episode. Also encourage you all to do one of these three things: like, comment, and subscribe. If by chance you subscribed in the past, you forgot to do so at the time, or you just subscribed and not had a chance to do so, again, please subscribe. It helps out the channel, and I'm ever so thankful for every subscription I can get my hands on. But I also want to encourage you all, please, to make sure you turn on that bell notification icon as well, so that way you never miss any more content that I push out. Again, subscription numbers always going up, but we want to make sure we turn on that notification icon so that way you guys never miss any more content that I push out. Also want to encourage you all, please share this content with your Lions friends and family members. Share it here on YouTube, share it on Twitter, share it on Facebook, share it anywhere and everywhere you can with everybody and anybody that you can. The more we share it, the greater the channel spreads, the greater the channel grows, and again, I'm thankful for every share that I can get my hands on. And with that being said, to everybody, I hope you all enjoyed the content. Hope you all are having a blessed day. Please, 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 again, thank you all for what you guys do. I can't say it enough. And again, thank you all for those that decided to become new subscribers. If you still haven't become a subscriber, hopefully I'll get you on the next time. But until that time, I just want to say to everybody again, God bless. Hope you're all doing well. And until the next time we meet, I'll see y'all in the next episode.